Well. Dr. Wahab Shittu joins us this morning. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria. He's right here with us in the studio. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I don't know where to begin this conversation. On the one hand, Chief Afe Babalola is a senior advocate of Nigeria. He's an elder statesman. He's 95 years old or thereabout, and he has, let me use the word, capitulated to traditional rulers after rejecting all other pleas. What's the difference for you? What's the significance of that?
Well, I think for me it is important to focus on this gesture by the elder statesman beyond every other thing. The elder statesman, who I consider to be an individual, institutional figure, has impressed me by what he has done more than ever before. This is not, when the crisis broke out and a lot of people were taking sides for and against, I came out with a public statement where I sued for peace on both sides as the way out. So what has played out yesterday is for me a personal vindication of what I've all along been preaching. And without taking sides, without blaming anyone, I think the focus on this gesture is remarkable. It shows that our Chief Afe Babalola, SAN, elder statesman, has shown remarkable example that you must not forget your roots. You must always defer in appropriate cases to our traditional institutions. You know what One, who led that delegation, symbolized for the Yoruba race? That's the source of the Yoruba race. I mean, Odua. So when the Oni comes out to plead a cause, leading some other prominent, equally formidable traditional rulers, it is like invoking the spirits of the Yoruba ancestors. It is like saying, as a race to which you belong, this is our stand. We do not want this, we do not want further overheating of the polity. We do not want anything that can, divide the Yoruba race. And so we are asking you, in the interest of the race, to drop all charges. The fact that that delegation came out powerfully to make that request is significant. And the fact that Chief Afe Babalola also rose to meet their demands is also significant. I would have been very disappointed if the request of such such elements who represent the formidable Yoruba race is rejected. I'm happy that he accepted the gesture. And that's the focus this morning. Afe Babalola, I must say, is not, like I said before, he's an individual institutional figure. Perhaps the only Nigerian where you see that a whole Ekiti race, Ekiti nation, rose to declare a day in Ado Ekiti, a day to honor him yearly. That's what a day has been specifically dedicated to always honor Afe Babalola. Again, look at his impact.
What's that name? What's that day called?
Afe Babalola Day, where elements across Ekiti, particularly in Ado Ekiti, decide to say we are not doing any business. That day is specifically set aside in honor of the man. People will troop out to honor him. No, but I don't think any figure has enjoyed that kind of adulation while alive. Again, you want to see the contribution of Chief Afe Babalola to our education. Look at Afe Babalola University impacting on several Nigerians. Again, this is only Nigerian that has produced several senior advocates, including 2 Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Federation. Chief Akeolujibi was a product of Afe Babalola. And the sitting Attorney General, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, also a product of, so, and then you see, and the man is still strong and healthy as we speak. So what I'm saying is that God has really blessed this man. And so, like he said, he has nothing else to prove. So now that he has come out to say, oh, I'm dropping these charges, I don't want to proceed against the young man again. In difference to our traditional institutions, in difference to the race, I think it's something salutary, and it's something that has raised the bar in terms of the leadership by example, like Chief Afe Babalola. And I think we should all salute him.
Just a quick one. Excuse me. Now, before we go into the nitty-gritty of the issues, the implications and all, you spoke about the fact that Chief Afe Babalola is an elder statesman, so he's an elderly person, and he respects Yoruba institutions and all. If the table had been turned, if the coin had been flipped, do you think the other gentleman would have exhibited the same respect for the traditional institution?
Well, like I said,
I'm talking about younger Nigerians, because they do not have the understanding that an Afe Babalola. Do you think younger Nigerians, excuse me, have that regard?
I prefer, and I think what that tells you is that I expect younger Nigerians who are with proper upbringing who told this example. Because part of the problem of the decay in our society is declining values. Core values lies at the heart of the Omaluabi culture of the average African. I don't want to even talk of Yoruba race. Omaluabi culture is respect for others, respect for institutions, respect for core values.
So what you're exemplifying here is about values.
Yes, when you have proper upbringing, if you are properly trained to respect institutions, to respect leadership, to respect constituted authority, you will behave the way Afe Babalola has behaved.
But there are some times when, quote-unquote, elders have behaved in ways that are not respectable.
When those elders exhibit traits that are not respectable, all of us will rise up to condemn. We should not follow such elders. You understand what I'm saying? We are not saying, and that's not what I say, we should focus on the gesture. We are not looking at the merits or demerits of the case.
No, not yet.
We are not. And we are not saying, it's not about right or wrong. It's about, rising up to preserve our culture, rising up to preserve our tradition, rising up to respect traditional institutions, rising up to respect the demands of the race. Mind you, and that's the point I was making when this crisis broke out, Nigerians have been factionalized. People have taken sides in this race. In some way, all the elements involved, the two sides involved, even though the stature of Afe Babalola is larger. It's overwhelming. The other party too is involved is not somebody that you can call a pushover. He has his own constituencies too. So there are elements too who have taken sides on both sides. And we think, and we want to examine the implication of that on the polity. The implication of that on the unity and cohesion of our country. And the implication of that on governance. You have to take a holistic picture of it. And then say, there comes a time when you say, let us sheath the sword. In the interest of nation building, in the interest of cohesiveness and unity of our country. It is not about right or wrong. It is about ensuring the political stability of the country, the economic stability of the country, and then ensuring that we do not unnecessarily overheat the policy. We should allow governance to take the center stage. My view is that this is the time Nigerians across board should close ranks around the president.
But then there are the merits or demerits, the significance,
yes,
the weight of the allegations also shouldn't be remonstrated, particularly in the interest of governance. You and I know, Dr. Shittu, that over the years, people who represent institutions, who represent authority, have all of that trust have been eroded over the years because the trust quotient has dropped significantly between the government and the governed. So anyone who represents authority, who represents influence, even including someone like, Afe Babalola, even though he has had to reject, government appointments quite a number of times, it is only understandable when people say, look, you are all the same anyway. So the case of defamation that's at play here, we need to look at it because people are wont to believe what is false, even what is salacious, even if it is false.
Well, like I've said before, I don't want to go into the merits or demerits of the case. But what has played out, if you look at it holistically, poses a lot of danger to our institutional framework, particularly the image of the judiciary as a whole. And when we are talking of the judiciary as an institution, all of us here who are members of this generation, I'm coming.
We'll come back to judiciary, sir. Yes. We'll come back to judiciary. Yes. I'm talking about the governance element that you mentioned. Yes. It is natural for people to take the side of anything salacious, even if it is untrue, as far as it has to do with governance. Cases of corruption, cases of, so people, they have carted away so much money from Nigerians, even if it is not true. Without following up, people tend to go with it. But the fellow whichever person at any time raised that flag, made that claim, would have gone to press, would have made all of those comments. And most of the time, the lie has gone so far, it's difficult for the truth to catch up.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, you also have to appreciate the standpoint of Chief Afe Babalola. He is a major complainant. He's the one who is asserting that my reputation has been impugned. He's the one who has complained to the authorities. And he's the one who has been put on the spot by a lot of appeals and elements, For instance, a former respected head of state, and president of the country, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, came out to appeal to him, dropped the case. He shunned it, the plea. Peter Obi also went to him and had a close door meeting. He shunned the plea. Reverend Father Kuka went to him. He shunned the plea. Now this time around, traditional rulers led by the Oni of Ife, a formidable, also went to him. You still want him to continue to...
No.
I'm saying, that's difficult. If you want those issues that you have mentioned raised, you have to wait for another day. Wait for another opportunity.
But how do we correct the institutions in such a way that the trust can be built? That's the question.
Okay.
Because trust is lacking. That people generally follow anything that is salacious, even if it's not true.
People follow anything that is salacious. Majority of them perhaps do not have legal training. Now, if you have legal training, then you won't rely on beer parlor gossips. You won't rely on, rumblings from the marketplace. The training of the lawyer emphasizes 3 cardinal points: the facts, the evidence, and the element of proof. That's the way we are trained. If as a lawyer I want to make any allegation against anyone, I must be sure of my facts, I must be sure of my evidence, I must be sure of the proof. You understand me? But that is for adjudication. We have taken the issue, this is to the realm of alternative dispute resolution. If, for instance, you had called me when not on the basis of what has happened yesterday. I won't comment because I respect the judiciary institution. A matter that is called is sub judice.
Okay.
But we are focusing on this gesture of Afe Babalola.
I get
in
that.
spite of everything.
I get
yes,
that, sir.
yes.
You talked about him as an individual institution.
Yes.
It's understandable.
Yes, yes.
And there aren't many
Yes.
left. But it's the exemplary nature of the case.
Yes. Now what you are saying, now let me make this point. There's a distinction between allegations, no matter how salacious in your ways, and the element of proof, which arises after a trial process and at the end of the adjudication. We have not gotten to that stage yet. The man said, oh, he has made a complaint. And he said, I'm withdrawing my complaint. So what is your own, how can you be more royal than the king?
Well, this is Afe Babalola. There are some other people against whom such allegations may have been made over time.
Yes.
And who do not have the pedigree of Afe Babalola, and who will not have the privilege of the Oni intervening on their behalf. But some of them will go to jail on the basis of false accusation.
Yes.
And you talked about the training of the lawyer.
Yes.
So let's take it down to the sphere of the judiciary.
Yes.
You talked about the training of the lawyer.
Yes.
And you know, the fact that before you make certain claims, you need to have certain basis for them. The person who made this allegation is expectedly a trained lawyer.
Yes.
So it is only natural that people would take whatever he says serious. If we have to go by the words that you're speaking, that this, based on the training of the lawyer, you don't make certain claims without certain assurances.
Well, I don't want to focus on the person who make the allegation at this stage. But now that you have drawn me out, and you want me to focus on him, I see him as somebody who's courageous, who's bold, and who comes out with some measure of conviction. You know, I've listened to him a number of times. You know, it does not mean that given the same situation, I will behave the way he has behaved in this matter. And I have no competence to fault his style. He is Daily Farotimi, I'm Shittu. We are two different individuals. But he has written a book, you understand me, detailing what he felt was, wrong in his own estimation. You know, but you see, the question you want to ask, as of today, is part of that book. Has the image, reputation, and eminence of Afe Babalola diminished? Diminished. Because you know, the thought of defamation arises when you say, oh, somebody has maligned me to such an extent that people now shun me, they now avoid me, and all that. After this book came out, Afe Babalola, a day was declared by the Ekiti nation to honor Afe Babalola. After this book came out, people were still attending Afe Babalola's university. I don't know whether some of your children are still there. A number of my friends have their children in there. After this case, in spite of this case, powerful, respectable individuals are still patronizing this man, and you saw what happened with players. So where is he? Where is the stain on his reputation? No, in my view, no. No. If I see, let me tell you, I have a personal experience that I want to share with Afe Babalola. I've related with him professionally. Two recent examples. One, there was a time I had to consult him in respect of a matter, and I was in his office. We walk up till 12 a.m. Read my head. 12 midnight. And he ordered that we should be checking to our respective hotels. By 7 o'clock, the man was already on his seat. So what kind of woman being is this? So Afe Babalola is hardworking, fiercely intelligent. And let me tell you, one of the people that late Chief Gani Fawebi respected a lot, was Chief Afe Babalola. That's the first example. And recently in a case involving my chambers and his chambers, when I saw that he was involved and his chambers was involved, I wrote him a very polite letter. And on the strength of the letter I wrote to him, You know I can't match Afe Babalola in any courtroom, do I? He agreed to settle the matter with me out of court, which brought some small income to me and enlarged my respect for him. You understand me? So what I'm saying is that I'm focusing on this gesture. And for me, the reputation of Afe Babalola is not in any way important.
I get your focus on his reputation, and it should also go for every Nigerian who deserves to have and hold his reputation. But I'm looking at the issue and the implications going forward.
Okay, you see, I read the book. I don't want to say the facts we did Farotimi rely on. But I think it's dangerous for any lawyer. Not just for me, any lawyer at all. To seek to denigrate our Supreme Court. Look, confidence lies at the heart of the adjudication. No, the Supreme Court will survive me. Who will be available for generations yet unborn. You don't denigrate such institutions. You understand me? In a published book or anywhere. You understand what I'm saying? Because that institution symbolizes integrity, and then so you should shift individuals away from institutions. That's the only way the comment I want, and I want to leave it at that. For me, I will never denigrate the Supreme Court. I will never denigrate our court system, because the alternative to that is anarchy. I will not do that. Because as a lawyer, I'm supposed to exhibit learning and character. I'm supposed to show integrity and respect for our institutions. So the only way, and I think I want to invite the young man, for him I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for the late Farotimi. I was, before this incident occurred, I was looking for opportunity to reach him. Because of his advocacy, because of his fiery nature, because of his boldness, because of his courage. But I think he has done a disservice to the Supreme Court. And he should tender an unreserved apology to the Supreme Court. To the Supreme Court. Because our Supreme Court and the judicial institution is bigger than all of us. We must sustain the integrity of that institution. You understand? If individuals misbehave in that institution, we should separate individuals from the institution. But attempt to label the Supreme Court as this or that is unethical, is uncomplimentary, and is a disservice to not only this generation, but future generation. That does not mean that we cannot criticize if we have grounds for proceeding. But we should not pull down the whole edifice because we want to kill some rats.
Okay. Kayla also has some questions for you, Dr. Shittu. Go ahead, Kayla.
I mean, I've been listening to everything that you've been saying, Dr. Shittu, and I mean, listening to Afe Babalola yesterday, a lot of things came to my mind. I mean, it's a 95-year-old man, and at that age, what comes to your mind at that age is all about legacy. So anything that tarnishes that legacy, you would do everything to fight. And that I think came from a place of defense, you know, from this man who we're talking about this morning. But I want to be able to talk to you a little bit more about the concept of defamation in itself. When Farotimi wrote that book, when we all read that part in the book, we all twisted our heads sideways. Oh, can you prove this? You know, is this something that you can actually prove against a man of this stature? I want you to speak to the concept of defamation, because that line between defamation and speaking truth to power is one that many people don't really navigate properly. As a senior advocate of Nigeria, when you see something wrong, as an individual, as a journalist, or as a lawyer, an activist in this case, if you see something that rubs you the wrong way and you feel the need to speak up on it, how do you suggest that one does that without committing defamation? Just on a general scale, not saying that that's what happened to Farotimi, but just on a general scale.
Anyway, thank you. I think the first advice I would give to anyone who sees something wrong is to be sure of the foundation of his facts. You must assemble your facts. You must be sure-footed about your facts. you must have evidence to support your facts. And there's a distinction between facts and evidence. And then you must have a way of, you must ensure that there's proof for what you have said. That, you see, defamation is an injury to reputation. When you remove reputation from any individual, what you have is just an empty shell. That person is no longer a human being. That person is worse than an animal, because reputation is what sustains you as a human being. That is why defamation is an injury to reputation. And you have options if you are defamed. If you feel you are defamed, there's a distinction between defamation, for instance, and vulgar abuse. Vulgar, or you abuse somebody. Just vulgar. Vulgar abuse. It's not interpreted as defamation. Before defamation can arise, you must show that you have published something that is injurious to my reputation, is attributed to you, and then you have published it, and reasonable members of the society, on account of what you have published or what you have written or said, now sees the person against whom that publication was made in a negative light and decide to shun him. For instance, if you allege that somebody is a robber or somebody is a thief, and people now begin to avoid the person on account of what you have said, and you can show elements who can come forward to say that, oh, I read the publication, and because of the publication, I started to look at this individual in a different light. You know, but you can, that is generally in the realm of reputation. Every decent human being whose reputation has been maligned or defamed has a duty to defend that reputation. That is why you cannot blame Afe Babalola, who felt defamed, for taking the action that he took. Although some other people might say the approach, might fault the approach. He could sue for libel in a civil court and claim damages. You could also report it to the authorities and treat it as a criminal defamation. The option which has, nobody can fault an aggrieved person about the choices he decides to make when he feels aggrieved. And this is not saying that the gentleman who has raised these allegations should be condemned. No. That's not what I'm suggesting here. I was saying when this thing broke out that I'm looking forward to what evidence he has before he could make that kind of allegation. But it seems that we have to wait for another occasion, because Chief Afe Babalola may have aborted this process, not because he wanted to, but because of the volume of, pleas from eminent Nigerians, which he has to respond to.
Dr. Shittu, I want to be able to talk about, there was something you said earlier about proper upbringing. And, for many young people, and I'm actually looking at our YouTube page right now, and I'm looking at the comments from people on YouTube, there is that distance. I don't know if it's poor upbringing or years of distrust, years of disappointment. I mean, it's easy for us to look at someone who doesn't really respect an elderly person, as we're seeing with a lot of people who are speaking on our YouTube page right now. So he's an old man, what if he did something wrong? Should we keep quiet because the person is elderly, if the person did something wrong? And it speaks to years of looking at the older generation and not seeing them deliver the sort of integrity that young people would learn from and aspire to. That gap between the older generation and what they stand for, and this younger generation who haven't exactly been inundated in many ways with examples that they can aspire to, individuals that they can want to be like. We've been hearing embarrassing cases for so many years. From your profession, we would hear about corrupt judges. And as from my generation, at least, we look back, there was no such thing as a corrupt judge. Everybody in that profession was held to the highest levels of integrity. But that's not the case today. So in many ways, when we look at young people, and many of them do not really care for what most people would describe as proper upbringing, it's mostly because of years of distrust, years of disappointment, watching people who they want to, who we're told to respect, watching them be disrespectful to our country. Can you speak to that dynamic and what young people should be thinking about right now, especially with all the disappointments that they've had to listen to, watch, and face over the years?
Well, I think young people should emulate elders who have shown positive examples and shown elders who have impacted negatively on our collective consciousness. It is not in all situations that an elder, quote and unquote, will be right. In many cases, elders have been shown to be wrong. And in some other cases, you see younger elements showing better examples of, moral rectitude. So that's not the point I'm trying to make. Well, the key thing is for us to go to the family unit and begin to get back to respect for core values. Not respect for elders, but respect for core values. Values of integrity, values of honesty, values of, trustworthiness. All those values that define us as a people in the days of yore. We must reenact those values and then insist upon them. I would say anybody who has seen something wrong is not entitled to raise the red flag. Yes, you can raise it. But be sure of your facts before you expose the reputation of anyone to public ridicule. Because you are virtually trying to, bring the entire character of the person down. And so you should be very sure of your facts. You should be sure of your evidence. You should be sure of the certainty of the element of proof before you go to town to raise grievous allegations against anyone. Whether people will perceive as our friends or people will perceive as our enemies. Don't malign the reputation of anyone without being sure of your grounds, without being sure of your facts, because you are trying to drive that person into extinction, because what he has to protect is his reputation. If you take that away from him, what you have is just an empty shell. So I think you can raise concerns about the quality of justice delivery in our country. You can raise concerns about corruption if you have the proof. You can raise a concern about delay in adjudicating our cases, because those concerns are designed to ensure improvement in justice delivery system. And all of us have a stake in this. So, but don't try to bring the institution down. Don't try to rubbish the Supreme Court. Don't try to tar all judges with that label of being corrupt. No, I won't agree. If you say judges are corrupt, I will not agree with you. Because majority of our judges are decent and upright. The few ones who are, collectively let us join hands to fish those few bad eggs out and take them out of the system so that they don't pollute the atmosphere. That is why if you ask me today, one lawyer that I celebrate, that I have a lot of respect for, is dead. Late Chief Gani Fawemi, of blessed memory. Whenever he sees something wrong, he will use the legal machinery to correct the wrong. He will not attack you without being sure of his facts. And that's the model I think all of us lawyers, because the lawyers should live in the consciousness of the people, should be in the vanguard of, So if anyone, so it is important that the lawyer does his duty within the confines of the law, without trying to bring the entire edifice down. Because if you collapse the edifice...
Let's talk about that edifice. Let's talk about these institutions. because this is a very important conversation and one that many Nigerians are probably trying to navigate right now. When we see something going on in a place, or you hear something embarrassing in some institution, sometimes you're hard-pressed as someone who has witnessed a wrong to focus on the individual who did it and not denigrate the entire institution. The importance of the trust we have in institutions is where I'm coming to with this question I'm about to ask. How can we get Nigerians to trust these institutions when so many bad eggs have passed through these institutions and have been the face of these institutions? How do you suggest the Nigerian handle that dynamic? I'm looking at, I don't want to focus solely on the legal institution, but it's one that you can speak to because you belong there. When you hear these stories, access to justice not being available, or like when we read Dele Farotimi's book, I wanted to be able to say, oh, this is absolute rubbish, but I couldn't say that because it's possible. You know, there's that thing at the back of your mind where you're like, it's possible. I don't know, but it's possible that this actually happened. Now, when you look at an institution that has churned out so many disappointing stories, and not just your institution, how do you get the Nigerian to focus on the people who committed the crime and not, in many ways, like the word you keep using, denigrate the institution? I want to use the word call out the institution in itself. Is it possible that we actually have institutions that probably need a lot of rejigging and tweaking such that the individuals who are parts of those institutions do not continue to churn out embarrassing stories that make us denigrate these institutions that are supposed to represent us?
I would suggest two approaches. One approach would be when you see something wrong, don't keep quiet. Because the man dies in him who keeps quiet or keeps silent in the face of tyranny. See something, yes, you see, say something and do something about it. You are talking of decay in some of our institutions, yes, you may be right. But there are machinery for airing your grievances. Have you exhausted those machinery? For instance, if a lawyer is seen to be corrupt or a judge, in your view, is corrupt, there are mechanisms within the system for you to raise your voice and then ventilate your grievances. Have you applied those mechanisms? For you, a lawyer can be reported to the disciplinary committee of the NBA for wrongdoing, and they are sitting daily. A judge can be reported to the NJC, who will look at the case and then, examine the merits of the case. Even all these professional bodies, they have their own disciplinary mechanisms. Have you exhausted those? So don't go to town with allegations without exhausting the internal mechanisms for redress. So I think we need to strengthen these mechanisms for disciplinary procedures in the various professions, in order to ensure that we reduce the incidence of corruption, impunity, and malpractices to the barest minimum. Secondly, if you have your facts, of course, you belong to the media. Media, you also have to embrace investigative journalism. You have to go all out to fish out the facts. I think rather than go to town with sensational stories, we have to ensure that these stories are properly investigated before we go to town. So all these professional bodies have subscribed to certain ethical standards. I think the issue is that most times we sidestep these, disciplinary procedures and then try to take. So you might have something plausible to raise, and your approach is wrong. Because your approach is wrong in raising what is sensible, then your approach is also corrupt. For instance, if I have a complaint against any counsel or any lawyer or any judge, I don't have to, I know the way to proceed. I won't go to town to malign the judge or anything in the public space, because the judge has no rights of reply because by virtue of his work. Of his work. So I think there are mechanisms that one should apply. And I think we should encourage people to speak out when they see something, and to do something when they see something. Look at the way Gani sustained most of his battles. Gani used the rule of law, approach. When Gani sees something, he will go to court. When he sees a policy that is wrong, he will go to court and challenge the policy. When he sees any individual, doing what he considers to be wrong, it's not situations that Gani was right. But he will use the rule of law approach. So I've advised the rule of law approach in solving some of these grievances because it's our duty to ensure that our institutions are strengthened. It's our duty to ensure that the justice delivery system in our country is effective and efficient. It's our duty to ensure that corrupt officials do not continue to rule over us. It is our duty to expose those who plunder our collective commonwealth. But the approach must be civil, must be polite, must be in adherence to civilized and best practices standards. We should behave as decent human beings, which we are. We should not take our grievances and address them through the mechanisms of the jungle.
Absolutely. Before I hand you back to Ayo, well, you said in the course of your conversation that Dele Farotimi should apologize. What if he doesn't? What if he digs in his heels? What if this this gesture by Afe Babalola is rejected by Dele Farotimi? It's a possibility that he would say, no, I stand by what I said.
I'm not wading into the dispute between Chief Afe Babalola and Dele Farotimi. I'm not commenting on the merits or otherwise. I'm just focusing on the gesture of Chief Afe Babalola. I'm also unapologetic about my request directly to Dele Farotimi to apologize to the Supreme Court. I'm not apologetic about that. Because he's a lawyer, and he's one of us. I'm sure he will not set out to denigrate it to the Supreme Court. But if that is the implication that we have seen, I think he should apologize for that. I'm making a request to him publicly. He's entitled to refuse. To refuse because Wahab Shittu certainly is not Dele Farotimi. And I must say that I have a lot of respect for his courage. Yes, as a person. Okay. Yes, it takes courage to be able to do what he has done.
Do you also have respect for the courage of the telcos to increase their tariff the way they have, 50%? Because definitely it's going to affect a lot of things, particularly small businesses.
Yes. I think elements both in the public and private sector must be sensitive to the sufferings of Nigerians. Governance or service delivery is about, ensuring you respect or you're sensitive to the feelings, of the majority of Nigerians. If Nigerians are suffering by virtue of any policy, I think we should review it. If increase in tariff has occasions hardship, I think it should be reduced. I think we all deserve to have access to better living standards. And that is what governance, whether in the private sector or public sector, should be all about.
But the reality of the state of the economy, of running businesses, is also not lost on us. As I think it was the minister that said, the reality of the fact that these telcos operate in very, very precarious times, and the economy is taking its toll on them as it is on everybody else. So if they are going to remain in business and offer services that will benefit Nigerians, then the needful needs to be done sometimes.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. But we need to cooperate. And I want to make this public appeal. With government at state and federal levels. And government at federal and state levels must be sensitive to the yearnings of our people. But I think first of all, as a people, we should cooperate with the government. We should encourage government to deliver. And I'm an incurable optimist. I believe our government, this administration, given enough opportunities, will take us out of the woods.
What's your take on this whole budget defense of the 2025 budget defense so far? A good number of the ministries, departments, and agencies, in fact, in some specific cases, the ministers themselves are asking for more funds. The question in my head is, guys, You guys gave your figures to the president. You asked him to go make this presentation in the National Assembly. And now in the process of defending the budget, you're asking for more money. Am I missing something? Am I getting it wrong?
Well, you're not getting it wrong. You are right to raise some of these concerns. But I think what these agencies should focus on is how to block some of the huge gap in terms of leakages within the various agencies. There are a lot of leakages. In some of these agencies, you have incidents of ghost workers, a lot of pilfering of state resources. Some of these are cost-saving measures. Some of these ministries should save cost. Agents should save cost, and then we should take proactive steps to recover our looted resources. You understand me? Nigeria is rich. Don't make the mistake. In terms of naturally, it's just that the wealth of this country is concentrated in the hands of very few. Some of them who have plundered the country's commonwealth. We need to identify those elements and recover our commonwealth so that Nigerians, majority of Nigerians, can have access to better living standards.
No. The reason I'm asking is, because you spoke about governance
yes.
in the earlier discussion that we're having. So this whole about the whole governance things, because if for instance you talked about leakages, and you thankfully have worked with corruption, anti-corruption.
I'm still working with working for the FCC and ICPC.
Now the question that I'm asking is, these issues of vulnerabilities, they aren't new.
Yes.
I can't count the number of Auditor General's reports that have pointed out these leakages, and yet it would seem like they have been sustained over the years. Is there some kind of collusion somewhere that is making these leakages to be sustained over the years, and the Auditor General's reports, which actually analyze the budgets or the budget execution processes, don't seem to have teeth?
Yeah, impliedly, that would appear to be so. I think what the government should do, what we should now focus on, is implementing those reports and recommendations contained in those reports. You understand me? There are a lot of reports set up, committees set up, and who have made far-reaching recommendations. I think the way to go is to call on government, both at the federal, state, and local government levels, to dust their books and see some of these recommendations with a view to ensuring implementation.
But some of them come too late in the day. I think is it 2020 or 2021 Auditor General's reports has just come out. We don't know of 2022 or 2023, or even much less 2024 yet. So some of them come later in the day, too late in the day. So will they be able to achieve anything?
Well, I'm too optimistic. I think we should do a lot of searchlight within. Identify some of these, areas.
Is there something the anti-corruption agencies can do to fast-track those X-raying processes that you talk about?
That's why you need to commend the work of the anti-graft agencies. They are working, and some of these suggestions will also assist them, because they listen to some of these programs. They need to. If you want to fix any country, there are two critical elements in my view. If you fix those things, those two elements, a country will be fixed. One, take care of the police and the judiciary. Law enforcement. If we have law enforcement, I'm not talking of law enforcement, I'm talking of enforcement. If the police is properly funded to be able to deliver on the responsibility of law enforcement, and the judiciary is strengthened to deliver on rule of law, this country will be fixed.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Shittu is a senior advocate of Nigeria. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Okay. So Business Morning on Sunrise Daily comes up right after this message.